Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're gonna go pick up a new boat. So recently I sold my old boat. It was a 1999 Crown Line 2002 BR. Great boat. We had it for almost 10 years with the family and it was awesome. We had it on this lake here as well as many other lakes. So yeah, let's go get this new boat and I'm gonna show you guys what it is. What happened? Well, here we are, a nice little situation of an exploded tire. All right, so we were able to pull off onto a side road and now we are sitting here. I've contacted Fountain Tire, so they're gonna send out a service truck and they're gonna throw a new wheel on this rim. So it looks like everything is good. The wheel bearings turn freely. The brake was actually a little bit locked up, probably because it ripped the hydraulic brake line actually right off the frame rail when the tire shredded. So we were able to bleed a little bit of hydraulic fluid out of the brake lines to kind of free up the wheel and spin. So that's good news, because a lot of times if that wheel bearing goes, it'll actually seize the entire kind of spindle and destroy the whole axle. So the fact that it's not a wheel bearing is good. Also, to note, I did grease these right before I left because this boat has been sitting for 3 years and has not actually moved anywhere. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. Anyway, we're going to talk about what we're going to do to this boat next. But for now, let's get that tire fixed. We're back on the road, so let's get home. All right, guys, it is the next day. Now, we had quite the adventure getting the boat home, which included getting a new tire put on by a mobile mechanic, but we got all that straightened out and have the brand new tire on the boat right here. So we're gonna show you guys what's up with this boat and the problems with it and what we're gonna do to it. So this boat is a 2008 Svfara. It's a sv3, which is a 23-foot V-drive, so that would be a wakeboard boat or a surf boat. The V-drive means that the engine is in the back here, and then the transmission is actually in the front, sort of under the floor, and then the drive shaft that has the propeller on the end of it actually runs down and out the bottom of the boat, right here. And so then there's a rudder that steers the boat and the prop right here. So the V just stands for the configuration of the engine being here, to the transmission, and then out to the propeller. That's different than a standard inboard, which has the engine further to the front, and some people call it an inboard, some people call it a direct drive, some people call it a center drive, and that just has the engine in the middle of the boat, which goes straight out to the bottom. This one is a V drive. Showing you a quick walk around on the outside. Everything's in pretty good shape. The gel coat on the bottom is actually in great shape, and from the trim line down, Even the clear coat on the gel is in very good shape, and the deckling is all in great shape. Very minimal scratches on the bottom of the boat. The Svfara boats in these years did have the docking lights, which is 4 lights in the front, which looks pretty cool. Back around to the port side, everything on the bottom of the boat looks good, and the trailer also is in great shape. The wheels are a little bit dirty, but otherwise in great shape, other than, you know, the tires possibly needing to be replaced. So there's not a lot to do on the outside. On the upper part of the boat, from the trim line up, this is where it needs a little bit of work. This gel coat is completely faded. Unfortunately, on these boats, they don't come with a slip cover that goes below the trim line. So the newer boats, the cover that you put on when you're not boating actually goes over top and right over top of the trim line, and then has a large strap that kind of lassos the boat around and cinches on. This style of boat has a snap-on cover which snaps just below the windshield to cover the boat. So the problem with that is this clear gel coat is exposed to the weather all the time, exposed to the sun, and it gets really just sun-baked and faded. So what we're gonna do to this is we are gonna do a cut and buff. I'm not gonna do this myself. I'm gonna hire a company to do this. The amount of time I spend just figuring out how to do a cut and buff on this, just not worth it. It's just better to get an expert in here, and they'll do it first shot, and they'll make it as good as it can possibly be. There's some old decals that have been taken off. They said they can probably blend those in. These decals here will also come off. Probably go deckless on the back with this model number. Hard to say. I'll try and take these off so I could potentially put them back on, but at this point I don't think so. There's some old SV3 deckling here. There's some Svfara deckling here that's all cracked and pitted. That'll come off. And yeah, so we'll do a cut and buff above the trim line on the whole boat, and we'll probably also get them to do below the trim line just on the back. This was obviously parked in an area that the back end was exposed to the sun, and that's why the front looks good, but the back below the trim line is faded. Also, believe it or not, but when the fiberglass is sloped back like this, it gets a lot less direct sun, and it's subject to a lot less fading. This part of the boat, which is sloped sort of up, it's subject to the sun sort of hitting it, so that also gets a lot faded. It's amazing what just that slight sort of decline or recessed back, it's amazing what that does to help the gel coat stay in good condition. So we have a swim deck here, swim grid, whatever you want to call it. This is where you can access the boat. The water line sort of stays at this level. When you're getting out of the water into the boat, this is what you climb onto. There's no ladder out of the water like a lot of boats. And this is also the spot where you'll stage for putting on your water ski, putting on your wakeboard, or even just getting ready to go surfing. So the Svfara boats have this really cool pass-through area where you can walk through the boat. A lot of the other boats are just smooth fabric across the top. One of the cool things about the Svfara is they have this step where you can step up and walk across the boat, and even step down all the way into the boat, which is pretty neat. The disadvantage to this is you don't get the nice sort of lounging area. You can get a filler cushion for this, but I'm not sure if I'm going to bother. We don't do a lot of lounging on the upper deck. This is the configuration of the V-Drive. You have a large lounge area. You have your cockpit here with a swivel seat. You also have rear seating here, rear facing seating, and then you have the bow rider section in the front. We have a filler cushion, which is quite nice, and you can flip the window closed for stormy weather. You have a rear view mirror, which is great when you're driving. You can see what's going on behind you without, cranking your neck over. This boat has a wakeboard tower, which is great. There's an anchor point at the top. The advantage to this type of tower for towing is that when you're behind the boat getting towed, the rope is actually pulling you up already, so that when you go up into the air, the rope doesn't pull you back down into the water. The rope is actually pulling you up, so you're able to catch air much easier on a boat that's pulling from a tower. The nice thing about the tower also is it can house speakers, and it can house a bimini top. The bimini top on this boat is actually independent of the tower, which is probably not what I would prefer, because the bimini top can shake a bit when you're driving, but that's okay. In the driver's compartment of the boat, the finishing is, I would say, decent. Some of the newer boats, some of the Mastercrafts and the Malibus have a lot of billet metals and really sort of fancy interior finishes. This is better for its year than some of the cheaper brands. Like I went and looked at a Moomba and the finishing was quite poor in it. This one's a little bit better. We have a spare gauge here, fuel gauge, we have a speedometer, tachometer with hour meter, we have perfect pass, which is your cruise control essentially, temp, oil, voltage, which is great. We have our stereo system here, blower, horn, navigation lights on this side. On this side we have our bilge pump, our heater, courtesy lights, dock lights. We have a stereo switch. We also have some accessory switches, and then we have our ballast gate switch. Our ballast gate switch is what we're going to use to open the main valve on our ballast tanks. So to look at our ballast tanks, we actually swing around to the other side. Here's our ballast tanks. We have 3 ballast tanks. We have a port side ballast tank, a starboard side ballast tank, and a bow ballast tank. The port and the starboard are in the back of the boat, there and there, and the bow ballast tank is in the front, underneath the front here. So these are simply used to add more weight to the boat, to sink the boat down in the water, to create a bigger wake out the back. And that's only used primarily for wakeboarding and for surfing. And there's a couple other things for surfing that we're gonna do to this boat, but we're gonna talk about that later. That's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for sticking along with me on my adventure bringing the boat home. On the next video, we're gonna talk about some of the maintenance issues, some of the things that are broken on the boat. We're also have a little bit of a surprise, but we're gonna make this boat shine, and I'm gonna show you how we're gonna do that. So stay tuned for the next video. Please give me a subscribe and a like, and we